Ladies and gentlemen, the star of the show, here he is, Ernie DiGregorio. Ernie D.
All right. Thank you. I got a lot of people to thank, but no one more importantly than that gentleman over there. Without him, this would never happen. And you know, he knows how much I respect him and love him. And I remember the stories when I was younger about Louie's father, how many things he did for the community and how many people he helped in his life. And I told Louie, the apple doesn't fall far from the tree, because Louie's the same thing. He's so kind and so generous. And for me, it's a thrill to be back in Buffalo, but I'm back here all the time. I've been to Buffalo, I'll bet you, in the last 5 or 10 years, 50, 100 times. Whether it, you know, be doing basketball clinics for little kids or autograph shows with McAdoo and Adrian Dantley. But this, you know, the stories go on. But I'm really excited to be here today because Louie's given me the opportunity to tell you about my new book and my new movie that's coming out. When I grew up, basketball was my life. And it was my life because it was fun. I loved to get a basketball and just bounce it and imagine someone was trying to steal it, and then I would shoot and win the game. I would always want to be the hero. So to be here at 73 years old because of Louie and have the opportunity to promote my book and talk about my movie is just as exciting for me, because it's weird, because in Rhode Island, you know, they have a lot of different restaurants, and ironically, one of the restaurants is called Angelo's, and they had their 100th anniversary of the restaurant, just like chefs had. And people came up to me, and you know, they wanted to take my picture with me, and I had my book, and I was giving it to all the politicians and everybody. And one guy came up to me. I knew who he was, but I'd never met him. And he owns this really fancy restaurant in downtown Providence, a French restaurant. And he came up to me and he hugged me and he said to me, "Ernie D, I want to thank you for what you're doing. What you're doing gives us all inspiration." I guess because as you get older, a lot of people like to cut back and go slower, but I've always been, I don't know if it's good or bad, been given a mind with an imagination and creativity on a basketball court. And I use that same imagination and creativity to write this book. And it's not just a book about, you know, the Buffalo Braves win the game and Ernie D's a great player and McAdoo leads the league in scoring. And it's a human story. It's about something that can relate to everybody. It's about, you know, addiction. My buddy Marvin Bonds, who played here, eventually died of drugs. And in the book, myself and my coach, Dave Gavitt, try to save him at many different times. And in the end, like we all know, it's awful hard to beat drugs. And so we lose him. But Gavitt said to me, Gavitt was brilliant in his own way, whether he meant starting the Big East and making everybody a lot of money or working for the Olympics or whatever. But he always said something that stuck out in my mind, and I put it in the book. And that was, "Ernie D, your greatest assist wasn't on the basketball court. It was trying to help keep your brother alive from drugs." And that always stuck with me, you know, that he could have that foresight and that vision. So in my book, it's all about the stories in the late 60s and 70s where you got, you know, the Vietnam War stopping, you got protests, you got drugs, you got, you know, oil embargoes, you got inflation. It's a crazy time. And that's why when Louie and I met with Tim Clark, the movie commissioner of Buffalo, I said to him, you know, that's why Buffalo would be the perfect place to do the movie. So, with the architecture of the beautiful buildings and the people. You know, we all know, and you guys know better than I do, because I don't live here. I just know from playing here, and when I come here, if the fans are just regular good people who love their athletes. And as an athlete, you can't ask for anything more than that. To play in a town where they respect you and they love you, and that's what Buffalo has been for me. And I've been fortunate to meet a lot of nice people, and Louie's been like family to me, because he's always there for me. But I said to Louie the last time I seen him, I said, Louie, I finally got something, because I come with a million things and he thinks I'm nuts. And most of the time he's right. You know, they don't pan out. But this one, he looked at me, and I'm sending him all these texts and all these things I'm getting. I can tell something's good when other people send me texts and they tell me how they've been moved by it and how they loved it. And I'll bet you I've had hundreds of people tell me that, and I waited for the right time to come to New York, to Buffalo, to announce it, and here we are. And the only thing I think a lot of people, it works negatively for me, but it works positively in other areas, is the college is my partner, Providence College. And when they're my partner, they handle all the sales. I don't get involved in selling books. So if somebody wanted to buy my book, say for instance, in Western New York, they couldn't go on Amazon, or they couldn't go in Barnes and Noble. They'd have to go to the Providence College bookstore, and then they have an app. And then if they want it personalized by me, I sign it. All they have to do is get that email and say what they want. And they do this all the time. You know, it's a first-class operation. And it works better for me because I'm not in the book business, you know, getting books and packaging them and all that stuff. So it's been going great, and I'm excited about the book, and I'm just as excited about the movie, because I know this movie will move people. And I'm going to keep busting Louie's balls to get it done, and Tim's balls, and who knows, if it's in Buffalo, it would be a special thing, because, you know, the people here are great. And then, you know, I wanted to talk to you a little bit about the Braves, and then see if you have any questions for me and stuff. When I first came here, and I say it in the book, I have a chapter all about Buffalo, Snyder went on record saying that they signed Ernie D, and my lawyer said to me, we got him in a good spot now, because they hadn't signed me, Louie. So that means the guy's got to pay, right? He can't look like he signed me and didn't, you know, bring me in. So when I eventually came, I took my mother and my father and my sister. We all came up, and we had a press conference. And I had this crazy suit, right? Tim, you see that suit I had on?
Yeah.
With a hat. I looked like I was some sort of a movie star. But you know, and then it started. We had. I found a little, you know, I got tons of scrapbooks, and I found this little article I gave to this girl in the bookstore. She's going to put it online. But it was the first time the rookies played against the veterans. And they had Kaufman, McAdoo, McMillan, Randy Smith, Garherd, and we had Ernie D and Ken Charles and Mike Macaluso and a couple other guys, Jim Garvin. But make a long story short, the first thing Ramsey said to me when he came to, I was playing for the USA against the Russians in LA. He said, we had breakfast, and he said, look, I can't just give you the starting point guard position. You have to earn it. I said, okay, I got no problem with that. I understand. Well, that game, I had 34 points, and we beat the veterans by like 10 points. So I earned it. So after that, there was no question, you know, I was going to start. And before that year, they were 21 and 61. So they haven't even come close to making the playoffs or even near 500. We finished, I think, 41 and 41, and we had Boston in the first round of the playoffs. We took them 6 games. and we had something special. McAdoo was a scoring machine, and I still stay in contact with him to this day. But McAdoo never seen a shot he didn't like. He'd shoot from anywhere. I mean, in the beginning, I'd throw it to him, and he'd be foul line extended, he'd shoot. Then I'd look, and he'd be at the top of the key. And then he'd be even further. And he'd only have his hands out, Lou, he's looking for the ball. And we got to eat too, right? So I give it to him, but I make sure I get mine too. But that year, we had 5 guys that averaged 15 points a game, and I think that's really rare and unheard of. Randy Smith was a bullet. You could throw the ball 20 feet ahead of him, and he was so fast, he would always catch it and lay it in. So he was a perfect backcourt mate for me because I had that vision I could see, and I would see him run and just throw it. McMillan was smart. He had played with the Lakers the year before when they won 33 straight with Chamberlain, West, and Goodrich. And all he did was move it out the ball, and he'd pop out. And as soon as he'd pop out, I'd have the ball right here. And he would shoot, and he'd be like, no wasted motion, the same shot every time. Reminded me a lot of Calvin Murphy. You know, the guy was like just a shooting machine. And then Herbs could score. So we had a very powerful offense that could score a lot of points. And we had Jack Ramsey as the coach, and he let us run, and it was special. I really enjoyed it. In fact, the second year coming back, you know, like everybody says, you need experience, and when you get that experience, you're a better player. And I remember one thing, you know, about the Celtics. You know, when I grew up in Rhode Island, I used to always listen to the games on radio when I was in high school with Johnny Most and all those guys. And Havlicek always, you know, had a certain thing on my mind about him. He was great. I loved the way he played. He was unselfish, he moved, he was always in motion. Well, after we lost to Boston, I remember he came in the Braves locker room and came looking for me, and he came up to me and he shook my hand and he said, Ernie D, I want you to know you had a great year. And I said, wow, this guy's not only a great player, he's a great person. And so I played 4 years here in Buffalo. After that first year, it was never the same because I had that knee injury and a lot transpired there. But then I went to finish my career with the Lakers, and that didn't work out too good. And then I went with the Celtics, and that didn't work out too good either. So look, we hope this movie will work out good. But, you know, when I look back, I said to myself, when I was 12 years old, I knew what I wanted to be in my life. How many 12-year-old kids know what they want to be? But the thing was, I didn't know what I wanted to be. I knew I had to work and practice to be that. And it just so happened, playing was fun. So when people say, oh, I got to go to practice again, and I practice 3 hours, I would stay on the court until I had holes in my sneakers and blisters on my feet because it was fun. I loved it. It was nothing better than playing basketball. And to be able to, you know, play in Buffalo, become Rookie of the Year, lead the league in assists, lead the league in free throw percentage, those are things that will always be on my mind to say, I accomplished what I had to accomplish. Now I have different goals. My goals now are to promote my book, where I have people like that behind me, which is huge, and to get my movie started. And I got people like that. Hopefully we can make that happen. And that's where I am in a stage of life. I'm lucky. I got all my kids. I got 7 grandkids. Been married 51 years. You know, I got